Hi, let us understand the concept of creating timeout and artificial delay within the microservices using virtual services. For this, I am going to use the Bookinfo sample application and I'm going to deploy this particular application as a part of default namespace. I do not have any application running. Now let me go ahead and add the application as a part of the default namespace. For that, I am going to execute the Bookinfo YAML file and create the record entities. This is going to create all the record service, deployment and the pods. Let me go ahead and list the pods available. For a couple of use cases, I will be deploying this Bookinfo and the other sample applications, and later onwards, I will be going ahead and providing the instructions and execute the commands in a single go. These are all the entities got created and the pods are getting initialized, service, deployment, replica set all got created. Now let me go ahead and create the destination rules. As already we discussed, it's going to create the destination rules on what are all the subsets available under each service and how the traffic should get routed. By default, it's going to route the traffic to all the subsets available in each of these services, that is product page, reviews, ratings and details. And by default, the gateway will not allow any traffic to get into the cluster. So I need to create a gateway specific for this particular application. Let me go ahead and create the gateway. So this is going to create the gateway as well as the virtual service so that the traffic from this specific gateway will be routed to that virtual service as a part of the detail page. Now let me get all the entities available as a part of the default namespace. I do have all the pods, and as we discussed earlier, 2 containers are running in each of the pods where the Istio is enabled, and I do have the corresponding services deployment and replica sets up and running. Let me go ahead and list the virtual services that got created. So this is the virtual service that got created for the Bookinfo, and that's going to get the traffic from the Bookinfo gateway, and it's going to allow all the traffic from all the hosts. Let me get the details about the gateway. So this is the Bookinfo gateway, and if I get the services, that is the Ingress gateway service, it's going to map the IP address. Let's have some additional understanding on this. Let me get into the Kiali web page. Let me go ahead and list the graph available. For that, I need to access the page at least once. Let me go ahead and generate the Ingress port and the Ingress host. At least one request should have been made within the services so that it can generate the graph. Since this is a new application, it might not have received any traffic. I'm going to get the service Istio Ingress gateway, and I'm going to get the port HTTP2. Let me echo this Ingress port. This is the node port where the application going to listen to, and this particular node port will get mapped to the gateway. Let me go ahead and access the gateway YAML file. So this particular gateway YAML file, it is going to listen to the port 80. Now let me get the destination rules. So this is going to have all the destination rules in terms of what are all the subsets available for that particular service, what are all the subsets can serve for that service. Now let us understand and connect all the dots. I'm going to get the details about the service Istio Ingress gateway that is part of Istio system and get the port mapping. So this is going to have the port mapping, that is port 30453 of the node into the port 80 within the gateway. So any traffic coming to this specific node into the port 30453, so any traffic coming into the port 30453 will be mapped to the port 80 within the Ingress gateway. This is the Ingress gateway that's going to have details about multiple gateways. And Bookinfo gateway is one where it is going to route the traffic based on the URL that we are attaching as a part of the URL. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to get the host name of this specific machine, that is the Minikube. Let me go ahead and get the host name and access the port 30453/product page. So I'm getting the product page. This is how the gateways are connected. And if I visualize the same thing using Kiali, I do have the product page that is going to access the details and the reviews, and reviews going to access the ratings. If I get into the product page, virtual service, so this is the virtual service. and that's going to have the book info virtual service. Let me check the YAML file, the same YAML file that we had created, and that's going to have the destination rules saying based on this, it's going to route the traffic to the destination product page in the port 9080. Now let me go ahead and get the ingress host. This I am generating it because I wanted to use it with the CURL. So I can generate the gateway URL by merging the ingress host and the ingress port. So this is going to be the URL to access this specific machine, and this is the port at which the port 80 is mapped for this specific application in the HTTP2 port. Now I am going to create another virtual service where I am going to route all the traffic to version 1 of all the subsets. Let me go ahead and create the virtual service. So this is going to route the traffic to version 1 subset of all the services. Let me go ahead and see the details about this specific YAML file. So here, as a part of the rating, it's going to have the destination only to the version 1. So version 1, it is not going to provide any stars. Let me go ahead and access the page and confirm. Yes. Now coming back to the actual use case, what we are going to discuss, that is the request timeout. By default, the Istio is having the request timeout as 15 seconds between the services, and within the services, for testing purpose, different delays have been injected into various services. For that, I can get into the source code and get better understanding. Let me access the source code of product page, reviews and ratings. This is the source code of product page. Don't worry about the technology or the syntax. Here you can get the details. It's going to add the timeout as 3 seconds. Basically, this particular service will not wait beyond 3 seconds to send the response back. If the response is getting beyond the 3 seconds, then it is going to send the response saying that particular page is not available. So the product page, it's going to have a timeout of 3 seconds. Now let me access the review page source code, and this is available as a part of the samples GitHub page. Here I do have the timeout set as 10 seconds for the reviews having black color, that is version 2, and 2.5 seconds for other subsets. So whenever it is trying to get the ratings, it's going to set the timeout as 10 seconds for version 2. Let me go ahead and document over here. So when the review is calling the rating, 10 seconds for version 2, 2.5 seconds for others. The reason why this specific hard coding is done within the code to understand various scenarios and the concepts available as a part of Istio. So whenever this particular services are getting accessed, the product page, it's going to have a timeout of 3 seconds, and the review page, when it is accessing the ratings, it's going to have the timeout of 10 seconds for version 2, that is black color star, and 2.5 seconds for the other version, that is the other subset, version 1 and version 3. Now I'm going to create the virtual services so that all the requests land with the destination, that is version 2. I can create a YAML file, or I can provide the YAML file as a part of the command itself. Here I'm going to create a virtual service where I'm going to have the destination only as subset version 2 for reviews. So if I access the page, always it will land up with version 2. So whatever the time I am accessing, always I land up with version 2. Let me go ahead and verify within the Jaeger UI. I'm going to select the details within the default namespace. Let me find the traces. So these are all the traces that happened a few seconds ago. Here, if I check the time frame, totally it took 41.94 milliseconds, and the details page, it got the response within 1.87 milliseconds, and ratings, it got the response in 1.46 milliseconds. Now everything is good. Now I am going to artificially inject a fixed delay of 2 seconds for the ratings. Let me go ahead and create the virtual service. Here I am creating a fault where it is going to inject a delay that is 100%. That means for all the requests with a delay of 2 seconds, and the destination, now it is getting into the version 1. Now let me go ahead and access the page and verify. So I am landing in version 1, that is the black color star. I can verify this within the graph as well. So the ratings, it's going to land with the version 1. Verify the Jaeger UI. Here it injected a delay of 2 seconds. So the reviews, it injected a delay of 2 seconds because here it got the response after 2 seconds. The reason because we injected a delay of 2 seconds. If I access the web UI n number of times and verify the Kiali web UI, I will be in a position to get better understanding. Let me access the page n number of times and get into the Kiali web page and refresh. Here I am getting the responses 2.42 seconds and reviews, it is landing in version 2 subset, and ratings, it is getting into version 1 subset. This is getting 2.42 second response time because the delay is getting injected within this particular service ratings, and reviews will wait for that much amount of time. The reason because the timeout within the reviews is, that is 10 seconds for version 2 and 2.5 seconds for others. Now I am going to use this particular setup and try out various scenarios in the next lecture, where I am going to modify the delay to various values and check how the service is going to behave. So in a quick summary, we had a detailed understanding on how the book info gateway will be mapped within the ingress gateway and how the traffic will be routed to the node port and to the book info gateway port and finally to the actual service, and how the timeout have been hard-coded within the services for test purpose, and how artificially we can inject the delay to create the fault within the service.